Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kendall and this is Ken's Corner and I'm so happy to have you here with me today. Today's video is my February wrap up. I do believe that I had a pretty solid reading month for such a short month, and I gotta talk about a little bit of some changes that will be coming. Starting with my March reads, I'm gonna try to go in the order of like overall stats and then my reads from lowest rated to highest rated, and then my game points, my books bought, and my overall total points going into March. To end it out, I will have a little conversation about some changes that are going to end up coming that I'm worried about for my reading, but we'll get there. We'll get there. So to start, I ended up reading 11 books in February. For me, that's wild because I ended 2025 reading 8-9 books a month, and then I immediately turned around in January and February. In January and February, I've read 13 and 11 books, respectively. Who is she? I'm loving it because I'm in a massive reading mood. But those 11 books read comes out to 4,840 points. I had 2 5-star reads this month with an average rating of 4.14. That is honestly impeccable. I love that so much for me. And then my favorite reads of the month, Ghost Myth by Nikki Palpretto and Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman. We will get to those, but those are my favorite books of the month. On to the books read. So the first thing I want to talk about, my DNF. I did start and try to read Breathe With Me by Becca Mack, and I DNF'd it. I was probably 50 to 75 pages, somewhere in there, through it, and I could not do it. I was already struggling. I kept pushing myself to read a little bit more, and then I just got to where I wasn't picking anything up because it was the only book I was reading. I personally am just going to put it down and on to the next. That did pain me a lot of it, because I was looking forward to Kara and Emmett's story, and then to turn around and be annoyed sucked. So now my 3-star read was Tony and Addie Go Viral by Melissa Marr. This was a Kindle Unlimited read, so it was 2 points. I'm a little sad. I loved the other book quite a lot, so I had high expectations going into this one, or relatively high expectations going into this, but like it just didn't deliver, and I am frustrated about that because they seem like the characters this book was about. Actually, oh my god, he's so cute. Anyways, the characters, we already met them in the first book I read by Melissa Marr, so I was excited. They seem so different in their book, and I can't stand when that happens. I was quite annoyed most of the time with Addie, but I was fine with Tony. But the number of times, the number of times that I was reading and either mentally or outwardly went, will y'all please just talk? It was frustrating. I did have fun with the book. I will probably pick up more from Melissa Marr because overall I did have fun with the book, and I really liked Greta Gets the Girl by Melissa Marr. 3.5-star read was Goal Line by Julia Connors. This was a Kindle Unlimited read and another 2 points. I had already started this book, and I'm glad that I went back to it, like reread what I started and continued on, because I really did enjoy this book overall. And I also like the fact that it has some deeper topics to it, more than just a fluffy hockey romance. But it's childhood best friends, fake relationship to lovers. Like, that is an impeccable combination to me because I love both those tropes. So when you put those together, I'm sold. I'm sold. I don't know why I put it down the first time I read it, but I'm so glad that I went back to it. And because of this, you do get that yearning between them. But it did end up getting to an annoying point because it was always I'm not good enough for him, she deserves more than me, yada yada yada. And that doesn't bother me until it's repetitive. And I get, yes, having that self-doubt when it comes to someone you just love so much, but at the same time, it was too repetitive. That leads into my main complaint about this book. It is too long. It did not need to be 500 pages. I have read and loved long romance books. This did not need to be 500 pages. It didn't for me. It was an okay read for me. And then finally, to my 4-star reads and some physically owned reads. Starting out strong, we have The Liar's Crown by Abigail Owen. This was a 3-point book because I owned it coming into 2026. This was a reread for me, and I'm so glad I reread it because it was so much fun. There is something about Abigail Owen's writing that is just so easy and simple to read without being oversimplified. You can just kind of dive in and just go and just keep reading and reading and reading. I love it so much. While I say they're simple, it's not a simple world. She does, in my opinion, a good job at building up a world and magic and plot and things like that. And yeah, and then the fact that it's a YA fantasy romance, so you get that yearning. I really like Revan's shadow-wielding twist that comes in this book, and the cliffhanger that happens at the end of this one. I'm so glad that I have both books 2 and 3 because I really want to dive into the Stolen Throne so that I can just go ahead and complete the trilogy because I'm curious to see what happens to everyone. And then I have The Wild Card by Stephanie Archer. I was so ready for this book. So glad that I got to read it. It was a Kindle Unlimited read, so another 2 points. I had so much fun with it. I loved Tate. I loved Jordan. It was just emotional and fluffy. I don't know how to make it make sense, but it was. You have Tate on one hand, who is just juggling so much, and then you have Jordan on the other hand, who is estranged from her father and just trying to work through all those emotions because they do live in the same city. And then she finds out that he's wanting to, he's the team owner that Tate is the coach of, mind you. But she finds out that he's wanting to sell the team, and she's like, but don't do that. Like, can we do something to not do that? So she starts working for the team, so they end up working a lot together. It just slowly goes from there. And one of my favorite things about this is not just the relationship that forms, but the friendship that forms first and then goes into a relationship. And it ends up being somewhat forced proximity. She gets on so well with Tate's kid, and the fact that he trusts her with his kid, and everybody on the team's like, whoa, 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 whoa. He doesn't do that. Oh, we got a visitor. We got another visitor. And to go with the friendship that builds into the relationship, it was just such a healing situation for both of them. Because even though at the beginning there was something that was going on that you were like, well, y'all just talk, they ended up talking about that issue. I'm so glad when authors do that because good gravy, it can drive me crazy. And then the next one, I finished out the series and I read Fearless by Lauren Roberts. And I own this book coming into 2026 and it was on my TBR. So 3 points for being owned and another point for being on my TBR. 4-point book. First off, I'm so proud of myself for finally getting this series taken care of and read. And I say that it sounds like I wasn't enjoying the series. I was. I really did have fun with this book and this series. So this was something. For the first third of the book-ish, Kai was annoying the crap out of me. He was so annoying with his whining. I would say pining, but it was absolute whining. It was unbearable at points that I kind of wanted to put it down and read something else. But I decided to push through just because I wanted to see how this series ended up. And I wanted to see what happened with Peyton because I was enjoying her perspective, so. And then throughout the book, it felt like it went from, I would say like 10 to 130 so fast. And then all of a sudden shit was happening left, right, and center. I do think I am satisfied with how this trilogy ended, but it was crazy how thick this book was to get there when it felt like nothing was happening until it all happened. Or, let me rephrase. Nothing was happening but whining until everything happened, other than like the trials, but I'm not going to speak on those because that'd be kind of spoiler. I'm surprised I put this off for so long after the ending of Reckless because I was so curious to see what she was going to do with it coming out of Reckless. And then my last 4-star read of the month was another physical TBR read, and it's Metal Slinger by Rachel Snyder, so this is another 3 points. Honestly, this was fast-paced, but also nothing was happening. Honestly, I had a lot of fun with it though. So I'm not really complaining, but I'm just putting that out there. Literally my first sentence on my thoughts for this was, honestly, this was just a fast-paced fantasy romance read, but with a banger of an ending. Yeah. It does feel like, while it is fast-paced, it also feels like so little happens until the last third of the book. And then by the last 2 chapters, everything and all the things are happening. I thought I was spoiled for the ending of this book, and while it was a part of the book, it was like the tippy top of the iceberg. I did have a lot of fun with this, and I'm very curious to see what happens in Lightwielder. And then my 3 4.5-star reads. So to start out, I read Savage Blooms by S.T. Gibson. I did buy this in 2026, so it was only a 1-point book, but hey, it got it off my physical TBR pretty quickly. I was not prepared for the content warning to start this book. I opened it up and I was like, where'd that come from? I do feel like this is very fantasy romance light because there are magical creatures. It's more of like the idea of them. It's very heavy on the romance side of things. If you've ever read Gallant by V.E. Schwab, that is what this feels like in tone. If you've read Gallant by V.E. Schwab and Savage Blooms, let me know if you get what I'm saying, because I really feel like that's an apt comparison, but it's also been a while since I've read Gallant. These main characters were hauntingly beautiful, and this book was unabashedly queer. Like, there were points where everyone was crushing on everyone. Everyone was flirting with everyone. And honestly, it's to the point, like, not even just they were crushing on everyone, they were lusting. Like, everyone's lusting over everyone. Nicola has my heart because as a character who didn't feel seen or wanted in her day-to-day life, she felt so seen and wanted at the end of this. And honestly, I need the next book because what was that ending? And then I read Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall, and the length of time that this was on my shelves, for me to then turn around and read it and absolutely love it. This is following Luke and Oliver, and Luke has found himself thrust back into the limelight because of something that goes on with his famous father. They're saying that he needs to clean up his act. So in comes Oliver and a fake relationship because it's something to help both of them. It's so precious because yes, it is a fake relationship, which is one of my favorite tropes. But Oliver literally jumps headfirst into it, and he is like, let me be there for you. Like, if we're gonna do this, we're going to literally act like a couple. And it goes so far, and it gets to a point where Luke and Oliver are like, okay, it's still fake. Okay, it's fake. Oh, wait, is this fake? But ultimately, Luke is such a healing character to follow because he is a character that a lot of people are going to relate to because he very much presents himself in a devil may care, I don't care type of way, when internally and really he cares way too much, and it hurts him. But he doesn't want other people to know they have that kind of control. Very much an interesting read for that because he was just so precious at the end of the day. But also just the way that he would do. So there was a little bit of spice, but a lot of it, so it's told solely from Luke's perspective. There would be points where they were getting it on, they were getting frisky, and there would be a little bit of description, and then Luke would be like, the rest is between me and Oliver. And it would be on to the next page, on to the next chapter, on to the next whatever. And I just thought that was such a clever way to do somewhat of a fade to black. It was very much like a comedic use of doing it. Overall, I had so much fun with this, ultimately because of the emotion in this, but that was a 3-point book. And then my next 2 books, I'm going to talk about simultaneously for the most part. My last 4.5-star read for the month was Carl's Doomsday Scenario, and my first 5-star read of the year was Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Denman. As of filming this, I have already started the Dungeons Anarchist Cookbook, and I'm having way too much fun with these. Like, I thought I was going to enjoy them, but the amount that I am thoroughly enjoying these reads, I wasn't expecting that, just because it is so different from what I normally read. But because it's book 1, I'm going to talk about this, and then I'll talk about Carl's Doomsday Scenario. So first off, there was more than just the tagline on the front where he says, "You will not break me." That got me. That still gets me. But also, like, towards the end of the book, he's talking to whoever he's talking to. I'm not going to give you spoilers. Anyone who mistook fear for respect was a fool. That's such a loud statement, if you get what I mean. I fully understand the hype behind this series. I am transfixed by this series, the world he created, the characters he created, the humor he uses to help bridge the gap with the absolute commentary he uses. Like, at some points, I would be actively cracking up, and then others, like, deeply, intrinsically thinking about life. And I feel like these books have been made out to be just a hee ha ha type of time because they're just ridiculous, and they are ridiculous and funny, but they're so heavy hitting too. And then Carl's Doomsday Scenario, this one had some good commentary at the end. Again, not gonna give any spoilers of who and what he's talking about. The way that he was talking about being worried for future generations, and to not sit down and bow down and cower and stand up for what's right. But then also the way he did it. And this hit hard for me in the actual book, so I'm not going to say the story, but once you get to it, you'll know what I'm talking about. The frog in the pot story, that one hit hard in American Citizen. Like, that one hit hard. And then my last read of the month, my second 5-star read of the year, was Ghostsmith by Nikki Palpretto. This one was so good. I gave the first one 4.5 star, giving this one 5 star, because while I highly enjoyed Bonesmith, Ghostsmith just took it to another level for me. And I don't know if it's because I was already so attached to the characters or what, but I just highly enjoyed it. And it feels like this book had so much more at stake, which it kind of did in a lot of ways. Leo is one of my favorite characters. That, coupled with his growth, him just being a main side character. He's not even a main character, he's a main side character. I guess we technically could consider him a main character. Anyways, he is a main character. If you've read these books, you know what I'm talking about. Like, he is a main character. Also, Red and Julian are just so resilient with what they go through and how good they continue to try to be despite that. And the fact that they're young. This is a young adult book. Ren is 17. It's not like she's in her mid-20s. She's not even in her early 20s. Like, she is a teenager going to battle for the Dominions. But also just the way that Pretto writes it was just so, in my opinion, well done. I'm very excited to get into Nikki Palpretto's backlist. I'm gonna say backstory. If you've not read the House of the Dead duology, read it. Even if you don't really like YA, it's more upper YA. I don't think I mentioned it, but Dungeon Crawler Carl was a 2-point book because I messed myself up, because if I wouldn't have bought it, it would have been a 3-point book because it was a borrowed book. Anyways, I bought the book, so 1 point, but it was on my TBR, so it gets a 2nd point. And then Ghostsmith by Nikki Palpretto, I had to buy it because I didn't own it yet. It's a buddy read, so I could give myself grace with it, but I'm not on this. So I bought it, 1 point, it was on my TBR. A 2nd point. So that means that at the end of my books read, I have, so the completed TBR points, books that were on my TBR game TBR, I ended up with 14 points because I bought and read 3 of them. I owned and read 2 of them, and then all 5 of them got on the TBR bonus 1 point. And then non-TBR books read, I have another 14. All of the ones that were not on my TBR were either borrowed or already owned, so I'll take that win. I had 4 borrowed and 2 physical TBRs. And then since I completed my 2nd in a row, I did get the completed TBR bonus, which was 20 points, coming to 48 points total for my books read in February. I did buy some books. So starting out with a little bit of a caveat I gave myself. So first, I bought 7 Faceless Saints by M.K. Lobb, but I did buy this as a markdown book. I literally paid $7 for this hardback, so because of that, I'm using the paperback point price. This will be counted for 15 points because it was a discounted book. And then I bought On Wings of Blood by Briar Bolin, hardback book, 25 points. Then I finally found this in paperback, so I bought The Shadows Rule All by Abigail Owen because I wanted to complete that trilogy, 15 points. And then here's my caveats. So I bought Ghostsmith by Nikki Palpretto. It's a hardback, but it was a buddy read. And I couldn't get it from my library. Like, it was not accessible from my library. And then the last book that I bought has another stipulation to it, is Half City by Kate Golden. I am about to film a video where I am going to read this among others, and I could not get it anywhere else in time, so it is for a video. It does not cost me any points. I talked about it in my first wrap-up video for January, so I'm not gonna dive too deep into it. How did I do with my points and everything? I had 17 points carry over from January, and then I earned 48 points in February, and then the books bought added up to 55 points. That leaves me 10 points going into March. I know we're literally on the 3rd month, but that means that in January and February, I not only finished my TBR game TBR, but I also successfully kept myself on the positive side of points when it comes to buying books recreationally. Like, I'm not counting books that I'm buying for specific reasons because I'm buying them for specific reasons. Does that make sense? So as for some changes that are coming to my reading, I'm hoping it's not going to affect me too much in terms of my reading, how much I'm able to read, and just how much I'm able to film, things like that. But I have gotten what easiest way to describe it is a promotion, and it's going to entail a lot more travel, so there'll be more audiobook listening, but also I won't be home with my stuff. We'll see how much that actually affects me, but I'm excited for that position. I'm still excited to read all the books that I can read. If you are still here, please let me know down below if you've read any of these books, if you want to read any of these books, if you have any books that I should have on my radar, and what's your favorite food? I want to know what your favorite food is. Without further ado, that is the end of this video. Have a wonderful morning, evening, or night. Sorry, my cat just fell. Have a wonderful morning, evening, or night whenever you're watching. Have a great day on purpose. Be kind to everyone, and happy reading. Bye, guys.